Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel and Teacher's Pet. This is Bianca, an online English teacher. Well, what are we going to do in this channel? We're going to share different and great tips for English teachers. It's my pleasure to be here. If I want to talk about myself, I would say I'm an online English teacher. My name is Bianca and I've been teaching English for about 12 years. Well, let's get started. The topic that today we're going to talk about is lesson plans. How to evaluate lesson plans. But first of all, I have a question. What is a lesson plan? Well, I'm going to give you 3 sentences. We will try to guess which one is the correct answer. Number 1. A lesson plan is a simple list of topics to talk about during our lesson. Number 2. A lesson plan outlines the activities, timing, and objectives for our lesson. Number 3, a lesson plan is only useful for teachers who are new to teaching. Well, which one do you think can be correct? Let's think about it. So, is it the only useful thing for teachers, who are specifically new teachers? Of course, it's not correct. Well, the correct answer is the second one. Yes. A lesson plan outlines the activities, timing, and objectives for the lesson plan. Well, a lot of us might have this question. Do you spend a lot of time preparing lesson plans? Or how detailed should a lesson plan be? Or is a lesson plan necessary for experienced teachers? So these are interesting questions, aren't they? Let's cover one of them together, guys. Do you spend a lot of time preparing lesson plans? I've got the answer. It depends on the complexity of the lesson. But guys, planning efficiently can save time in the long run. So it can be a correct answer, right? Number 2, how detailed should a lesson plan be? A good lesson plan should be detailed enough to cover objectives, activities, and timing, but flexible enough to adapt during the lesson. Is a lesson plan necessary for experienced teachers? Yes, even experienced teachers benefit from having a clear plan to stay focused and organized. Yes, of course, even experienced teachers might have this lesson plan, guys. Let's take a look at this sentence. A well-evaluated lesson plan helps ensure that our objectives are clear, students stay engaged, and the learning outcomes are met. Well, look at the 3 key words, guys. Objectives, engagement of the students, and learning outcome. In this video, I will walk through the important parts of our lesson plan by using references from trusted ESL resources. Let's get started. Well, I'm going to talk about objectives and learning outcomes of the lesson plans. Well, we should have clear objectives to set our clear goals for our lesson plan. Objectives should be measurable, they should be specific, they should be achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This means they should focus on actually what students need to achieve during the lesson and also at the end of the lesson. For example, let's say that I want to teach Simple Past. What is our clear objective? Students will be able to use Simple Past to describe actions. So this objective is specific to grammar, measurable in a quick activity, and realistic for a lesson with young learners, for example. And I want to tell you something. According to Scott in an A to Z ELT, objectives provide both teachers and students with a clear focus. When evaluating your lesson plans, make sure your objectives guide every part of the lesson plan. So we should be sure our objectives guide every part of our lesson plan. So now the second one I'm going to talk about is materials and resources. When I want to evaluate my lesson plan, guys, I should ask myself, do they suit the students' learning styles? This is really important. Or are they engaged? Are they engaging and practical for the objective of my lesson plan? Well, I can tell you guys, effective resources are the key to have an effective lesson plan and make my students engaged in our lesson. Well, let's say that I'm going to teach our kids past tense. Well, what do I need is maybe like storybooks or some pictures to make, to use those action verbs, okay, in those pictures and storybooks. Why? Because I need to make my students engaged in our lesson. So that's a very simple thing we can do in our class, even if we're teaching online. So another important sentence, Jeremy Harmer, in the practice of English language teaching, emphasizes using varied resources to support different learner needs. Well, I need to use varied resources to support different learners' needs, to support my learners' needs, guys. Well, another important thing is about lesson flow and structure. Well, guys, our lesson plans should have this smooth transition, right? So starting from presentation, leading, for example, a grammar lesson on the past tense might start with a warm-up, such as asking students, like, what did you do yesterday? Just put them in their groups and ask, and talk about their past things, the things they did in the past. And this leading part starts before our presentation, right? Starts before clarification of, clarification of the meaning of the grammar I want to teach, right? Because when I want to teach grammar, we'll be talking about later in our later videos, meaning, form, and pronunciation. And as you know, after the clarification part, we should have a control practice part, semi-controlled real practice to assess the students' activities, right? To assess the students' understanding of the grammar. Another important part is about engagement and interaction. Make sure that our students are actively involved in our lesson, which leads to a better learning. When I want to evaluate my lesson plan, I need to be sure that the activities are promoting the interaction among learners. For example, if I'm teaching simple past, I need to put the students in their groups to have this interaction among them. Even if I'm teaching online, the same will happen. For example, they can talk about their activities they did at the weekend. It will make the learning enjoyable. In a nutshell, if I want to assess my lesson plan, I should look for activities that encourage students' communication, encourage students to communicate in meaningful ways. This is the most important part. And the last part that I want to talk about is assessment and feedback. This is very important. Well, guys, assessing my students, during my lesson plan shows that whether the students have met the objectives or not. And feedback helps them see where they can improve. For example, I can give my students kind of questions about simple past. They can fill in the gaps with correct form of the verbs about simple past. Well, this assessment can be really useful. Or describe in one paragraph what they did last week, for example. Well, in a nutshell, I can tell you that if I want to evaluate my lesson plan, I need to have a quick assessment. I need to make sure that there is a quick but effective way to assess learning and provide feedback. Well, okay guys, let's see. Let's see this sample lesson plan. So I just want to teach the simple past. I just want to teach the past tense to kids. So the first thing I can do is to put it all together. So to put it all together, here is a sample lesson plan focused on teaching the past tense to kids. What is my objective? Students will be able to form and use regular past tense verbs in sentences. Well, this is my objective, as we talked about. Number 2, what are the materials? So we're using visual, flashcards with verbs like play, jump, and talk, along with a worksheet for practice. So this is the second part. Now we're going to have the introduction part, kind of the leading part. So start by telling a story. Guys, we can do different things, but this is just one example. Start by telling a story that uses the past tense, such as yesterday I played football, I jumped rope, and I talked with my friends. So this can be a kind of like engagement part. And for 10 minutes, we can show flashcards of verbs in both present and past forms. For example, jump, jumped, modeling the sentence such as I jumped, she played, and encourage repetition. So we need to repeat the sentences. The next part is going to be about the practicing part, so about 15 minutes. So we can pair up students and let them talk about what they did yesterday, as I told you before, using prompts. They could say things like, I played soccer, I jumped rope. So this gives them, a chance to practice using past tense verbs in a familiar context, guys. This is important. And this part that I told you before, assessments, right? Provide a worksheet where students fill in the gaps, as we talked about, with the correct past verbs. For example, yesterday I played with my dog, right? And the wrap up, 5 minutes, I can invite a few students to share sentences with the class. I can give positive feedback and help with any corrections if needed, guys. This is very important. So this was a very, sample lesson plan. And this sample shows how each element, objective, materials, structure, engagement, and assessment works together to create an effective lesson. Well, I hope you find this video really useful. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Teacher's Pet. We'll be here with more videos about our teaching. See you next time.